You notice it before you even put your keys down. A mug left on the counter from this morning. A throw blanket half hanging off the couch. One shoe kicked sideways near the door. You know that feeling when your eyes catch something out of place and your body just tightens? Not dramatically, not loudly, just a quiet, low-level hum that says, something is wrong here. Most people walk past it. You can't. And for a long time, you might have wondered what that says about you. Here's what nobody actually tells you about this. It has nothing to do with discipline. It has nothing to do with perfectionism. And it has almost nothing to do with actually liking to clean. What it has everything to do with is your brain, and the very specific way it processes the world around you. There are people who maintain a clean space every single day, not because they were born organized, not because they have more hours than everyone else, but because somewhere along the way, their nervous system learned something, that a clean environment is not just comfortable, it's safe. When your space is cluttered, your brain doesn't just notice it passively. It registers every unfinished thing as an open loop. That stack of mail on the counter, the dishes in the sink, the corner of the room that's been getting to it for 3 weeks. Your mind files each one as a task not completed, a thing not closed. And that costs energy. Psychologists call this cognitive load. The more visual clutter surrounds you, the more of your brain's processing power gets quietly drained, not on anything useful, just on managing the background noise of incompletion. Research has shown that disorganized environments directly impair your ability to focus, increase cortisol levels throughout the day, and leave you feeling more fatigued even when you haven't done anything particularly demanding. Picture this. Your brain is a browser with 20 tabs open. Most of them aren't playing anything, but they're all running. That's what a cluttered room does to your mental bandwidth. And some people, the ones who feel that low hum of tension around disorder, simply cannot ignore the tabs. And here's where it gets interesting. Because when the space is clean, something shifts. The tabs close. The hum stops. Your nervous system, your actual physical nervous system, interprets order as a signal that the environment is under control, that nothing requires urgent attention, that you can finally exhale. This goes beyond just feeling more comfortable. Research in polyvagal theory suggests that your nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for cues of safety or threat. A disordered space can register subtly below conscious awareness as a low-level threat signal. Not a dangerous one, but enough to keep your body in a quiet, persistent state of readiness. Clean it, and that signal changes. Your body gets the message. This place is okay. You are okay. There's a name for what your brain is doing, and it explains everything. But before we get there, if something in the last few minutes finally put language to something you've been quietly carrying, hit like. It takes 1 second. And it helps this reach someone else who needed it too. And there's something else worth saying here. The people who keep a clean space are often described as disciplined, or rigid, or, and this one stings, obsessive. But what most people don't see is that this isn't really about the objects. It's about what the objects represent. Every item in its place is a small, quiet act of self-respect. It says, I am someone who takes care of what is mine. I am someone who doesn't let things pile up, inside or out. That identity becomes self-reinforcing over time. You act in accordance with who you believe you are. And when keeping your space becomes part of who you are, you stop having to force it. It's not control issues. It's your nervous system asking for one thing it can actually manage. Because here's the thing most people completely miss. Most of your life is not in your hands. You cannot control what your boss decides tomorrow. You cannot control whether traffic makes you late, whether the person you love is having a hard week, whether the world outside your door is calm or chaotic. But this room, this counter, this corner, that is yours. And every time you bring it back to order, you are sending your brain one clear, quiet message. Here, at least I have this. Psychologists call this internal locus of control, the belief that your actions can influence your own experience. People with a stronger internal locus of control tend to experience less anxiety, recover from stress faster, and feel more capable in their lives overall. And one of the simplest, most immediate ways to reinforce that feeling is to control the one environment you actually can. Cleaning isn't just a task, it's a signal, a small but real act of agency in a world that constantly reminds you how much is out of your hands. Think about the last time you cleaned, when you were overwhelmed, not because the space was even that messy, but because something outside was. That wasn't avoidance. That was your mind reaching for the one lever it could actually pull. But before we go deeper, I want to acknowledge something. Not everyone who keeps a clean space is doing it from the same place. And this is where it splits into something most people never see in themselves. Let me ask you something. When you think about why you keep things clean, which of these actually rings true? Some people are what I'd call the regulators. For them, a clean space is genuinely restorative. They're not anxious about mess. They just feel better without it. Their nervous system is wired to use environmental order as a way to downregulate, to return to calm. When everything is in its place, they feel capable, present, like the best version of themselves. Cleaning for them is not compulsion, it's maintenance. Then there are the controllers. These are people for whom the cleanliness of a space is tied directly to a sense of internal safety. And when the space is disrupted, something more urgent than discomfort kicks in. Anxiety, low-grade dread, a feeling that things are slipping. For the controller, mess isn't just uncomfortable, it's threatening. And the drive to clean is less about preference and more about relief. And then there's a third type, the processors. These are the people who don't clean every day. But when something hard happens, when grief or stress or anger shows up with nowhere to go, they find themselves reorganizing a closet at midnight, wiping down a kitchen they just cleaned yesterday, scrubbing something that wasn't even dirty. For the processor, cleaning is not about the space. It's about having somewhere to put feelings that don't fit anywhere else. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that structure, that sense of completion, is exactly what an overwhelmed nervous system craves. Most people watching this recognize themselves in at least one of these. Some won't say it out loud, but you can in the comments. Just drop the type. One word is enough. I read every single one, and it goes even deeper than that. Because for a lot of people, this didn't start as an adult choice. It started as a learned language. Think about it this way. If you grew up in a home where chaos was the norm, emotional chaos, unpredictability, tension that no one named out loud, a clean space may have come to mean something specific to you. It meant things were okay. It meant nobody was fighting tonight. It meant you could breathe. Clean was safe. Messy was a warning. Because there's a reason this started, and it didn't start with a dirty dish. It started with a child who learned to read a room before they could read a book, who walked into the kitchen and knew, just from the way things were arranged, what kind of night it was going to be. And that child grew up, and they kept the skill, and now they call it a preference for cleanliness, when really it's a nervous system that never stopped scanning for signs. This is not a flaw. It is not a disorder. It is an adaptation. A highly intelligent, deeply ingrained survival response that found a way to stay useful long after the original danger passed. For some people, this trait has a cost. When the people around you don't share it, a partner, a roommate, a family member who exists in comfortable disorder, there's a loneliness in it that's hard to explain. Not because their mess is a personal attack, but because the gap between what you need and what they understand can feel impossible to bridge. That isolation is real, and it deserves to be named. You've probably tried to explain it. Why a pile of dishes on the counter makes it hard to sit still. Why you can't enjoy a movie when something in the background is out of place, and they look at you like you're describing something in a language they don't speak. That's not your imagination. Some people's nervous systems genuinely don't register environmental clutter as a stressor. Theirs just doesn't send the signal. Yours does. Neither is wrong. But only one of you gets called difficult for it. It's not obsession. It's a survival strategy that learned to look like a chore. You were never being dramatic. You weren't too much. You weren't difficult or rigid or controlling. You were someone whose nervous system found a way to create safety in a world that didn't always offer it. And that is not something to fix. That is something to finally understand. If something here felt like coming home, subscribe. This is your place now. Because the next one might be the piece you've been missing. Some things stay quiet for years, until someone gives them a name. And suddenly, you're not carrying it alone anymore. The next video is going to hit you differently. Click it, you'll understand why.